Oh, thank the sports gods we have actual news and not bad news for once. Good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. It's lovely to have you here. Lucas is back. Hello, bud.
Hope your Christmas was merry.
It was. It was, in fact. I told Jackson I had a little bit of a mental breakdown on the car ride home from my family Christmas that was going to propel me to new heights. I felt like I was going to come in with a better attitude. I was going to come in and not take all of these great things for granted. And then I told Jackson that 20-17 over the course of my Christmas Eve in just miserable fashion ruined all of that goodwill that I spent my drive home from Evansville, Indiana, building up in my head.
Oh, no. So your whole drive home, your ghosts of Christmas past and present and future were visiting you in the car, and you came back to Nashville a changed man, and a 20-17 loss undid all of that for you?
That's right. That's exactly right.
The worst Christmas carol ever.
The Titans killed my Christmas. But that's not what we're going to talk about. We don't have to start with them today. We don't have to deal with them until noon at the we'll get to them at some point throughout the course of the first hour, because Will Levis is going to speak today. Mike Vrabel is going to speak today. Of course, the updates on the quarterback are worth paying attention to. That's about it that's worth paying attention to with the local professional football team. But
breaking Vols news on 104.5 The Zone.
You doing it or you want me to?
Go ahead.
Okay. On 3 Sports is reporting that Nico Iamaleava is going to start the Citrus Bowl. Joe Milton on his Instagram page has officially declared for the NFL draft. He is saying that he's going to begin his preparations, but it will be Nico on New Year's Day against the Iowa Hawkeyes defense. Now, that is no small feat. I don't know what their opt-out situation is, Lucas. To be honest, I haven't really dove in to Iowa just yet. But that's a huge change of pace from even a week ago when Brent Hubbs was on the morning show talking about the possibility of Nico playing early or getting some action at some point. But I don't think I saw anybody prior to today. No, that's quite enough of the Laser Light Show. Thank you. I didn't see anybody prior to today with confidence reporting that Nico was going to start. And now that seems to be the case. I don't know how I feel about that necessarily, other than it's something new, it's something different. So it gives me a renewed level of excitement about the Citrus Bowl. I didn't really care to watch Joe, respectfully to Joe Milton. Like, I don't want to have to do all the qualifiers every time just because Joe's a good person. I'm tired of watching Joe Milton play, if I can be completely honest. And that's not a personal attack. I'm just, largely over the Joe Milton experience. So I was not necessarily excited about the Citrus Bowl between Tennessee and Iowa. Now I have reason to be excited. Now, I don't know how excited Nico should be. I mean, of course he's going to be fired up because it's his first real start. And it's signs of what's to come in the future. And hopefully people do not try and define him too early based on what this performance looks like in a bowl game, whether that's good, whether that's bad. Either way, it's his first start. But that it comes against the Iowa defense is a really, really tough opponent to get out there for your 5-star freshman who's played a little bit, but not really, and not against this caliber of opponent. So Brent Hubbs was on the morning show sometime last week, I want to say midweek, with Ramon, Kayla, and Will. You can check out the podcast wherever it is that you get your podcasts, and also on YouTube where we post a lot of these interview clips, talking about the viability of Nico playing in the Citrus Bowl.
Well, we'll see what Josh Heupel elects to do. The history of Josh Heupel says, Joe Milton, who's practiced all week long, is the starter, and he'll play until the game's in hand or whatever. But I just think this bowl game, I think bowl games are different. I think you're going to see Nico early in this game in some capacity, whether that's the third series or second quarter or heck, who knows what happens. But I do think you're going to see Joe Milton you're going to see Nico on the field early. And I think it's important that you do that. And I think bowl games, and you got to be careful because you don't want to just bypass your seniors, right? Because they've earned the bowl game, and bowl games are still a reward in a lot of ways. But when you're not in the playoff, you got all the opt-out stuff that's going on out there. These are exhibition games, and you want to see young players. You want to give them a taste. You want to have them engaged. You want to have them understand where they are, because they all think they're in a place that they're probably not, right, Ramon? I mean, you think if you're a young player, hey, I'm ready, I'm good to go, I can do anything that guy can do. And then you get out there and you go, hey, wait a minute, I might need a little more work in the film room, or I might need more work in the weight room. So I think you have to take full advantage of that in these bowl games. I'm not saying you wholesale change and you don't give, starting opportunities for seniors or anything like that, but I do think you have to have a conscious effort to play your young players, to give them an idea of where they are heading into the offseason.
Well, earlier than even Brent Hubbs might have imagined, or at least as of last week.
I'd be curious at what that conversation was like. Was this more of a Josh Heupel decision or a Joe Milton decision? Because Joe Milton in his statement is saying goodbye to Tennessee fans and thanking his teammates and a lot of the things that you typically see.
Well, you want me to read the Milton statement?
Sure.
Just for the audience to have the context of it. And again, this is on his Instagram page. First, I want to thank God for blessing me with the talent and ability to play this game we love so much. Throughout my years here at Tennessee, I've learned a lot. Becoming a man was the best part. Every day came down to giving my all for Tennessee. Grinding day in, day out with my brothers was... I'm going to butcher that and also sound super Caucasian if I try. You want to do it?
Spell it.
Odeelitttt. Something lit.
Exclamation point.
This is how we age. Oh, my God. Anyway, I love y'all boys. Man, I'll always have y'all boys to look back at no matter what, and I look forward to supporting y'all all week here in Orlando. To all my coaches, thanks for helping me become a better player every day. And to Coach Hype, Coach Halsey, and Coach Mitch, thank you for helping me become an even better man. Respect. Playing inside Club Neyland was amazing. The energy, the noise, and especially running through the tee. I'm going to miss it all. Playing in the NFL has always been my dream since I was 4 years old, and now it's time to turn those dreams into a reality as I begin preparing for the 2024 NFL Draft. Thanks, Fall Nation, for everything. JoJo out.
So at no point in that statement do you read him saying, I've decided to opt out of the Citrus Bowl and look forward to the NFL Draft. It's kind of a goodbye, and I'll be preparing for the draft with no mention of what's going to happen or not going to happen in the bowl game.
Right, and that's, because the headlines are already out there that Milton is opting out, and I don't necessarily know that's accurate based on that statement.
I wonder if this is the rare coaching decision opt-out.
The coach is opting the player out?
Right, and I don't know how that conversation would have gone. It'd be really interesting. Maybe it was a Joe Milton decision.
We have no idea.
But would you say Joe Milton could stand to have another good product out there of tape ahead of the NFL Draft?
Against the defense like Iowa, hell yeah. I don't know what their opt-out situation on that side of the ball is, but there are legitimately good players that they would be up against, and that would be beneficial for scouts to continue to watch Joe in this offense.
He's going to have the Senior Bowl. But the Citrus Bowl is in Orlando. I mean, that's basically his hometown. The amount of friends and family that could have come out to watch Joe play on Monday, I'm just surprised that this is ultimately the decision, and I'm very curious as to whose decision it was. Maybe we'll never know. Maybe there will be reporting on that.
Can we get some, can I have a laser light show for reckless speculation? Like that we're saying it on the front end?
I think we just do all three of them.
At once, can you do that?
Breaking Vols news. 104.5 The Zone.
The Blaine one.
That is auditory assault.
All right, let's not do that again.
Never again.
All right, reckless speculation. Josh Heupel wants to play Nico Iamaleava, and Joe Milton is being maybe not pushed, but gently shoved out of the way. All right? That's how this reads to me. Now, again, that's reckless speculation. I have zero reporting on that. But that based on the careful phrasing of the statement itself, and by the way, I love that Joe wrote his own statement. I love that it's not some kind of polished, prepared, agent sanitized statement out there for the purposes of PR. Joe typed that out and somebody put it in a graphic form or whatever, but like Joe wrote the message to his team. That's, again, why you love Joe Milton. And also, thank you very much. I would like to see the five-star freshman play. Let's keep it moving. Here's the thing. You obviously don't want to risk Milton's health if he's a draft. Let's just kind of taking this for the information that we have, not the reckless speculation of the coaching staff, at least I would imagine, would prefer to see Nico play in this game. It can serve two purposes, right? Two birds, one stone. Joe can have the opportunity to continue to train for the draft. He can continue to be healthy. He can continue to be a great teammate to his teammates in Orlando. He'll be around family. I would imagine that there is a level of disappointment. Wednesday is real short notice for this kind of turnaround, given that the game is next Monday.
They've been in Orlando a couple of days now.
So I wonder. I want to know more. Adam Sparks, we'll see if we can't get him on the radio show. Sparks will be able to give us more information on this. So let's talk about what the hell the offense is going to look like in Orlando against the Iowa Hawkeyes. We'd be fascinated to hear your input if you would like. What is your reaction to Nico Iamaleava starting the Citrus Bowl next Monday? 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Don't forget, we got the dumbest thing in sports later. We are going to hear from Will Levis. We got a lot to do on this Wednesday. It's 1045 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. 615-737-1045. You want to call in, talk about the announcement of Nico Iamaleava as the starting quarterback for the Citrus Bowl. So what will this Tennessee offense look like next Monday? It's worth diving into, given that the most important part has now changed around. Milton opting out, I guess. I don't even want to call it an opt-out because he never said opt-out. It's being written like Go Vols 247 right now. Who wrote this? Patrick Brown. I don't know who Patrick Brown is.
I know Patrick.
Okay.
Good guy.
Well, no, I meant no offense. It just wasn't Ryan Callahan, so I didn't recognize the name. The headline is that Joe Milton is opting out of the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, and the statement doesn't necessarily read that way. So until such time as we have confirmation of an opt-out, we won't call it that.
Well, he's opting out, right? I mean, whether
He's getting ready for the draft process.
Right, whether it was his decision or Josh Heupel's, Joe Milton is able to play, and he is not playing.
Somebody opted Joe Milton out.
Yes, he has been opted out of the Citrus Bowl.
Okay, that's fine.
In favor of Nico Iamaleava, which, by the way, I don't know what the ESPN crew is for the Citrus Bowl, but I imagine they are feverishly practicing Nico's name after learning this news.
No. Some poor play-by-play person who was not anticipating this at all. You can't get much more simplistic than Joe Milton.
I don't know what the crew is, but it's the Citrus Bowl. It's a New Year's Day bowl game. They will be made of professionals. I expect Nico's last name to be pronounced perfectly each and every time.
Okay, well, I'm sure Vols fans will handle that diplomatically when
Yes.
it is not when there's just even one slip up. What's the worst way that you've heard it pronounced? Because he hasn't gotten a lot of opportunities. So it's not like a ton of play-by-play guys have taken a crack at it, or play-by-play guys or gals have taken a crack at it.
Take your pick. Just rearrange the letters. Iamaleava.
Iamaleava.
A lot of people skip that A on the Iama. People just go the Iamaleava. You know what I mean? Like, just rearrange the words however you want, or the letters, and that's how somebody somewhere along the way has pronounced Nico's name incorrectly.
All right. Well, I'm not rooting against the ESPN crew on New Year's Day, but I am kind of rooting against whoever the play-by-play person is just once, just to see the reaction on social media. Anyway, so now it's Nico time, basically, and it will be Nico time for the foreseeable future for the University of Tennessee. It is curious, though, because the career best performance was when for Joe? Vandy?
Yes.
He seemed intent on playing not that long ago. And as you mentioned, they've been in Orlando for a little while now. So now comes Nico with this kind of situation where he's going to have to wade through the waters. He's had plenty of time to kind of get comfortable within the offense, to understand the language, to understand his teammates and things like that. And I'm certain prior to the announcement that they have been aware of this circumstance before it was made public. So safe to say there's been some preparations made around this prior to them announcing the decision. But I am curious to see what it kind of looks like out there, and if it's substantially different from what we've associated with Joe Milton, just because their skill set is not the same. Now, in a perfect world, you hope that Nico's a more well-rounded player at the position. He's a freshman. There's going to be some bumps and bruises. There were even in the small moments in time where he's been able to enter when games have been out of hand in favor of Tennessee, and they're just trying to get him some reps. But what is this offense now going to look like, Lucas, in the Citrus Bowl against the Iowa defense?
That's the biggest question. For me, it's just about the operation. It's not even about how many points they score or how many first downs or net yardage. It's just about what does the operation look like with Nico behind center. Because I think there was a significant drop-off this year with Tennessee when it comes to the tempo that they want to run, the tempo that we saw devastate defenses in 2022 under Josh Heupel. And so I decided to pull up because we've looked a lot at just how many plays Tennessee runs per game, and contrasting that with the time of possession is fascinating sometimes. But I was curious where Tennessee ranked among college football teams last season in plays per game. Buck, what do you think Tennessee ranked in all of college football? You don't have to give me an exact, give me a, 20s, 30s, 40s, teens, a general spot where you think Tennessee ranked last season, 2022.
First.
You thought they were first in the country in plays per game. They were not. They were 34th with 74 plays run per game. For context, Texas Tech ran 89 plays per game last season.
Oh, my God.
Which is insane.
So, wait. I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Because the number that I have associated with them, and I wasn't paying close enough attention. When we've talked about the Vols and the pace before, we've talked about plays per minute. And you've said they're plays per game. Now, those two things, can be conflated, but the rate of speed, and I just wonder if there's any disparity between plays per minute, which CFBstats.com does well to track, and plays per game, and whether there's not some kind of disparity in their rankings there. That's on me for not listening to you closely enough.
No,
that's
an interesting thought. We should look up the plays per minute.
I can do that
for Tennessee last year versus
you make
this
your
year.
point about plays per game.
But I can tell you that Tennessee ranked 34th in the country. They ran 74 plays per game in the 2022 season. This season, Tennessee dropped off into the 40s, where they ran 70.7 plays per game. So they dropped about 10 spots in the rankings. The number one team in college football in plays run per game this season, South Florida. The Bulls, who ran 82 plays per game, who are head coached by former Tennessee offensive coordinator Alex Golish, who brought that system down to Tampa. But
that's interesting.
Whatever metric we want to bring up, there was a significant drop-off in how Tennessee was able to attack defenses and keep defenses off kilter with that tempo, whether it was pre-snap penalties, whether it was game management, the tempo that was run or not run as effectively by Joe Milton at quarterback, just with the feel for the game that we talk about all the time when it comes to Joe. I am fascinated to see how instinctual that is for Nico, because it's going to be a process for Nico Iamaleava. I'll be surprised if he comes in and he lights up an Iowa defense that is one of the best in the country. Doesn't matter the conference. So don't expect Nico to come in and throw for 400 and it looks like Hendon Hooker against Alabama in 2022. For me, it's just about the operation and how quick the game appears to be moving for him in the pocket. This season, Nico 16 of 26 in his limited reps, so a 61.5% completion percentage for 163 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions.
You used a word that I really liked there, instinctual. How instinctual is it for the quarterbacks? Because that's really what it comes down to. In this offense, more than many others, I won't say more than any other, because there's a lot of teams running. I mean, I know it's an air raid, but it's technically predicated off their ability to run the football, so you can kind of distinguish it however you want. But the point is, the thing that made Hendon Hooker such a turnkey fit in this offense was not overwhelming physical gifts, was not a superpower processor isolating and eliminating out there because you're not running a pro-style offense. Instinctualness, and you have to have knowledge, you have to be prepared, you have to be able to execute, you have to have a full grasp of these things, but there is no way to truly teach instincts for a quarterback. Stroud is a great example of this in the pros. The S2 cognitive testing would have told you that C.J. Stroud would have been the worst quarterback of the bunch. And what has he done out there when he's been available? And by the way, it sounds like he's going to play this week against the Titans. We can get to that a little later, if not today, tomorrow. The idea that instinct is the thing that we probably know the least about Nico, right? I don't want to say that Joe lacks instinct, because that's impossible for me to quantify. But there is a level of continuity that you would like a quarterback in that system to be able to provide, especially when you're running so many plays out of the same formations. The same formations to be able to operate a variety of different plays to keep the defense on its heels. They do this at the pros, obviously. They should do this at every level of football. I can't speak for, grade school and high school and stuff like that. But to operate as many plays as the Tennessee Vols offense needs to out of the same personnel groupings, and Hendon Hooker's ability to do it almost, I don't want to say seamlessly, but damn near, and Joe made it a lot more clunky because he's just not that kind of consistent level of player. He's not that level of instinctual within this offense. These are the kind of things that we may not necessarily learn on Monday against Iowa in the middle of the day. By the way, we're not on the air that day, so you're going to be listening to Tennessee Vols. You're going to be listening to Nico instead of us.
Starts at 10 a.m. Vol Network coverage for a noon kickoff.
How about that?
And by the way, Dave Fleming and Brock Osweiler will be in the booth for Tennessee versus Iowa.
I'm sorry, Brock Osweiler?
Brock Osweiler, who's doing a lot of work for
Houston
ESPN.
Texans legend?
That's right. So the onus will be on them to nail the pronunciation.
Should we try and get Osweiler on here? I feel like that would be. I have zero connections to Brock Osweiler, but I can try and dig somebody up at ESPN that might be able to get him for us, given that it's Texans week, and also Bill O'Brien handed him one of the biggest bags of money without ever meeting the man.
Let's talk about that.
I would like to. After we do the Nico stuff, I would like to act.
Brad, before we get to the Citrus Bowl.
Don't you want to know how that all played out? That's one of the most ridiculous contracts in the history of the NFL to me. He's the only player in NFL history I can think of that was NBA salary dumped to the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
I don't ever remember a deal like that. So, yeah, I would like to start there with Brock Osweiler and then move to Nico. We'll see what we can do.
But to keep track of the opt-outs and what will or won't be around Nico, the backfield for Tennessee just got very young for the Citrus Bowl. We're not going to see Jalen Wright. He's off to the NFL draft after a 1,000-yard season. First one for the Vols since 2015. We're not going to see Jabari Small. So Dylan Sampson and Cam Seldon, come on down alongside your freshman quarterback, Nico Iamaleava, and a veteran offensive line. Because you have Cooper Mays and John Campbell who have announced they're coming back, and Gerald Mincey, and those are all good things for Tennessee. So up front, and I wonder how much that also played into this decision for Josh Heupel, because he's been asked several times this season after games, why not throw in Nico earlier? Why not get Nico more than, 3 series against UConn in a game you won 56-3 or whatever it was? And oftentimes, Heupel's answer has been in relation to a lot of moving parts up front on the offensive line, whether they were missing guys, whether they decided to cycle in some younger guys on the offensive line, didn't want to put Nico in that position. Now you're looking at a full-strength unit for Tennessee going into that game up front with Nico and some really young backs around it, and the wide receiver core remaining pretty much the same, obviously, without Brew McCoy. And I assume Deontay Thornton, who sprained his ankle against Missouri, haven't seen anything about him potentially coming back to play in that game. So it'll be interesting. He'll have a put-together offensive line, but a young backfield to make that debut with.
615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. What are your thoughts on Nico Iamaleava making the start in the Citrus Bowl for the Tennessee Volunteers? I almost said the Tennessee Titans. Can't be doing that, although there is quarterback stuff with the Titans that we will get to a little later. Before we go to the phones, a quick reminder that 3HL is going to be out at Buffalo Wild Wings in Gallatin for the next Titans football feast. You can stop by for your chance to win tickets and giveaways each hour, thanks to Miller Lite and Buffalo Wild Wings. You can see the full schedule by visiting 1045thezone.com/TFF. The F&M Bank chat, TN Berg says Dylan Sampson is the best of the bunch in his opinion. Cam Seldon and Dylan Sampson are two players. I mean, you felt really good about the Vols backfield this year, just generally. And because the offensive line, after Cooper Mays got back in the lineup, we talked about this, that was so central to everything that they were trying to do and how that offense needs to run, the fluidity of it. Against Iowa, I don't know what kind of success they're going to have running the football, which makes this matchup even more fascinating for the purposes of evaluating Nico. Because I think they're going to be put in more drop-back situations with Nico, and I don't know, maybe not more drop-back situations, because there were a lot of circumstances where they would try to run the ball, where they weren't able to, where they would have decent amounts of success, but not able to necessarily convert for first downs, and then have Joe try to do something through the air and with varying results. But if they can't run the football against Iowa, I mean, that's not necessarily what you want for Nico. You would like to see them have a balance. You want to see them win the football game, and to do that, you need the most balanced approach humanly possible. But I am fascinated to see what kind of adjustments, if any, the coaching staff makes if Iowa does what Iowa typically does, which is stonewall your running game.
Iowa ranks 12th in the country this season in opponent rush yards per game with 101.9 allowed. Tennessee ranks 12th in the country in rush yards forced per game, averaging 202.6 this season. And then you take into account Jabari Small, Jalen Wright, responsible for the vast majority of that yardage, not playing in this game. So this is a big test for Selden, for Sampson, and for Nico, and a solid glimpse into next season for Tennessee, because as veteran as the offensive line's going to be, all those guys are going to be back next year. The guys that you expect to see in the bowl game for the most part, as well as at wide receiver with Squirrel White and Deontay Thornton, and I suppose it's Ramel Keaton's final game as a Tennessee Vol. But this is what Tennessee fans were pining for in those games against UConn, against UTSA, a glimpse into what 2024 is going to look like, with the hope that 8-4 in 2023 is a transition, is a jumping off point into next season, a springboard into next season. And now you're going to get that against probably the best defense you could ask to get it against in a bowl game setting. I don't know that Tennessee could be matched up with a better defense in a bowl game outside of the college football playoff. I really don't. So Tennessee's defense is going to have to show up as well and not be embarrassed by an Iowa offense that can't throw the ball beyond the line of scrimmage. But this game, like you said, got 1,000 times more interesting, I think, to even Tennessee fans who are going to be invested in it no matter what. But I think every Tennessee fan is kind of perking up, is sitting up in their seat today, and just got that much more excited for the Citrus Bowl.
Is this now the most interesting bowl game for an SEC team, non-college football playoff related? Because they start tonight with A&M and Oklahoma State.
The dynamics of the Georgia-Florida State game are,
the SEC
fascinating.
teams playing bowl games, by the way.
Right. Well, why don't we talk about that with the SEC observations coming up?
Do you want to leave yourself a little extra time?
Sure.
Okay, that's next. From a song that I love to a song that I hate. Not the SEC observations. I think it's time. How many are we through? Before we hit the music, how many are we through? Do you know? You don't know. You look scared.
Oh, I got to count them up.
You look scared. That's okay. Because on a weekly basis, we got to go through these damn bowl games. All right, hit it. Wait, this isn't right. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. What happened? What happened?
Too much Burt.
Oh, my God. This is too much Burt.
In 14 days, 40 bowls. In 14 days.
Gus Malzahn and UCF lost the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl to Georgia Tech. The Troy Trojans did not protect Protective Stadium as they fell to Duke in the 76 Birmingham Bowl. Arkansas State recovered an onside kick but got hosed on a terrible offside call. It got Butch Jones all purple-faced. Northern Illinois wins the Camellia Bowl. Air Force defeated James Madison in the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. Sean Elliott got the French fry bath as Georgia State routed Utah State in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Eastern Michigan got destroyed by South Alabama in the 68 Ventures Bowl, and it started an all-out brawl over it. Northwestern won a slugfest over Utah in the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl. My goodness, to get to 8-5. Coastal Carolina, our Easy Post Hawaii Bowl champs over San Jose State. Minnesota went 5-7 and still won the Quick Lane Bowl over Bowling Green. Texas State did not lose to Food, beating Rice in the Serve Pro First Responders Bowl. And Kansas committed an FBS record 216 yards worth of penalties, but Jason Bean threw for 449 and 6 touchdowns to hold off
216?
UNLV in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. 216 yards.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that is just such an ungodly number
of penalties.
Woo.
We got put on record watch in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl last night in the third quarter when Kansas got up to 186, and I believe the record was 199. In that record, they blew right through it. They wanted to go for 200 in penalty yardage, and yet still defeated UNLV, who racked up 99 yards worth of penalties on their own in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. We had over 300 yards of penalties last night as Kansas defeated UNLV. And at this point, I think Jason Bean might be the most electric backup in all of college football. He keeps coming in for Jalen Daniels, the Kansas quarterback. That's really fun to watch, and he keeps just slinging it around. He'll throw some picks, but he'll throw for 449 and 6 touchdowns too. And the Jayhawks with another bowl win under Lance Leipold.
Well, that is exhausting. That the South Alabama, Eastern Michigan brawl was only mentioned as a brawl, as one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. Do you want to spend any time on Butch Jones before we move on? You informed me of this when I walked up into the booth for Titans Radio for me and Jim Wyatt's hit with Rhett Bryant 15 minutes before kickoff, that Butch Jones had suffered a loss in unthinkable fashion and just not nearly, did change several shades of colors in his face in ways that Tennessee fans are intimately familiar with.
Very familiar with, but I still don't think I've ever seen Butch that purple-faced. I mean, he was beside himself. For context, Arkansas State's down 8 to Northern Illinois in the Camellia Bowl. It's been a crazy game. NIU scored on a long fake field goal. Arkansas State missed a lot of opportunities, but they march right down the field. They score. They can't get the 2-point conversion. So with about a minute left, it's 21-19. Arkansas State lines up for an onside kick. It's very well executed. It bounces off of an NIU player. Arkansas State recovers the onside kick. Their sideline is going nuts. All they got to do is get a few yards, get into field goal range, and they'll have that first bowl win in the Butch Jones era. But flag down, they call offsides on the onside kick. There was no offsides on the onside kick. They showed the replay over and over on ESPN. Everybody level with the line that the ball is being kicked off from. Absolutely awful call. And Butch had steam coming out of his ears, coming out of his eyes, coming out of his nose. It was insane. And it got so bad that Butch, who had all 3 timeouts in his pocket, so on paper, yes, you didn't get the onside kick. There's still over a minute left. You can get 3 stops, call 3 timeouts, and get the ball back for a last gasp. Butch was so mad that he used a timeout to yell more at the officials. before NIU came.
Honestly, that's the most I've ever respected Butch Jones.
Seriously, NIU comes, like I'm watching the game. All right, well, technically you're still in it. NIU's offense coming back, and then I hear timeout. Arkansas State. What are you doing? What are you doing? They got a first down anyway. The game ended, but that was wild. A wild ending to the Camellia Bowl down in Montgomery.
Did you ever see, this is probably the last Disney movie that I've seen, Inside Out, Pixar animated movie about emotions, like in a person's, I think it's a little girl.
Yeah, good movie.
It is a good movie. Lewis Black, the famous comedian, plays the anger emotion.
That's Butch.
That's Butch. Like, that's what I picture Butch during the Camellia Bowl, losing his mind, calling a timeout just to continue to chew out officials. Incredible.
I hated it for Mickey Ryan, who was there, was in attendance.
He went?
In Montgomery. Of course he went. Mickey is.
What do you mean, of course he went?
Because Mickey is an Arkansas State lifer and will follow the Red Wolves wherever they go, and I respect that man for it. By the way, a very happy birthday to one Mickey Ryan.
Use the right one.
Happy birthday to him. I don't care. Good luck.
That's the wrong one,
I can't
Lucas.
find it. I don't know where Jackson saved it.
Oh,
in
my
here.
God. We can't do anything.
You're not a little kid.
Found it.
You're 21.
Happy birthday, Mickey.
Happy birthday.
Love you. Hate that Arkansas State couldn't pull it out for you. But yes, the Eastern Michigan brawl was insanity. Pure insanity.
So, Steve Lamb in the F&M Bank chat says, way too much Burt. It's Nashville, man. Tune that bleep. Half of us are audio engineers, bro. Don't do that. You know what I say? More Burt. Do it again. I want the 40. No, not that one. Damn it.
More Burt.
Let's talk about SEC, baby. Let's talk about the SEC. Let's talk about Nick Saban and Josh Heupel in the SEC. Let's talk about SEC, baby. Let's talk about the SEC. Let's talk about Brian Kelly and Greg Sankey in the SEC. Let's talk about SEC.
It's funny. I've realized the only time that I actually want more Burt is when nobody else wants more Burt. Go ahead.
Everyone wants what they can't have. SEC starts tonight in bowl season. Texas A&M taking on number 20 Oklahoma State in the Tax Act Texas Bowl at 8 p.m. tonight. A&M without a lot of star players. By the way, did you see where Walter Nolan is headed?
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
Transfer portal king, Lane Kiffin.
Ole Miss, a playoff caliber team.
God bless.
In 2024. Texas A&M gets us started in the footprint against Oklahoma State tonight. You've also got Virginia Tech taking on Tulane in the Military Bowl presented by GoBowling.com. I feel like the sponsor names are essential when you talk about the bowl games. You can't leave those out. The Mayo Bowl is today. North Carolina and West Virginia kicks off at 4:30. And how about Louisville taking on USC in the DirecTV Holiday Bowl? Who do you think wants that one more at 7 p.m. tonight? Which team do you think will be more fired up to take the field between Louisville and USC?
Ew. Is it weird that I root against USC now? Not against the players. Let me rephrase. I root against Lincoln Riley. I honestly, Lucas, and I mean, it doesn't matter. We live in Middle Tennessee. God knows, I'm sure whatever words that I speak into a microphone in Middle Tennessee will not find their way back to Southern California and Los Angeles and Lincoln Riley. But I think that dude's a joke. The more that I go through the Lincoln Riley experience, the more that I think that dude is a glorified coordinator. And maybe that's all you have to be in college football, but he's always been this wonderkind who came up at a very, very early age and had great success and made the college football playoff and pumped out number 1 overall picks all over the place at quarterback and produced prospects in the NFL draft. I think that dude is a joke. I thought nobody did a worse coaching job of 138, 140 Division I college football programs than Lincoln Riley did at USC this year. I think that dude ought to have been fired.
I think Louisville wins that game.
Which, by the way, what's his buyout? What's Lincoln Riley's buyout?
That's a great question.
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, there's no talk of him getting fired down there.
How the hell?
I understand, and I agree with you. It was one of the worst coaching jobs in all of college football, arguably the worst when you consider the talent that they had, especially on offense, and 7-5 is so inexcusable this year at USC. But I don't know what his buyout is off the top of my head,
I'll
but
look it up.
he's going to have time to get that fixed. He's made a defensive coordinator hire, but there seem to be philosophical changes that need to happen, and you just don't see that type of turnaround with one coaching staff.
Okay, if they were so this last article was written in November about Lincoln Riley's buyout, and it was between 80 and 90 million.
Sure, there you go.
As of November,
Yeah, he's not going anywhere. Louisville, on the other hand, is 10-3. They had an ACC championship game appearance. Jeff Brom, in year one at his alma mater, has done a fantastic job. So here's an opportunity for Louisville to get its 11th win, to knock off USC in the bowl game, and USC to go back-to-back, losing to teams like Tulane and Louisville in its bowl games under Lincoln Riley.
So of all these different games, and I posed the question before we went to break in the last segment, does Tennessee now have the most compelling non-playoff SEC bowl game? Texas A&M, Oklahoma State, Kentucky, Clemson, Auburn, Maryland, LSU, Wisconsin, Tennessee, Iowa.
You left out Missouri, Ohio State, which could be very interesting in the Cotton Bowl coming up this weekend.
Why isn't that included in this?
And I don't know what Marvin Harrison Jr.'s status is.
I haven't seen any update on it.
I haven't either. They won't have Kyle McCord, but Marvin Harrison Jr. today is with Ohio State, but he is not practicing. So there's rumors that Harrison's going to enter the draft, that he's going to opt out, but there's been nothing confirmed there. So I don't know if we see Marvin Harrison Jr. in that game, but that's going to be really interesting. Missouri is going to want that one more than Ohio State probably will, and that's a huge game for Eli Drinkwitz and a top 10 matchup, the only top 10 matchup outside of Georgia, Florida State in these SEC-involved bowl games that do not include the playoff.
You know why I got confused? Because I left off Ole Miss, Penn State too. They have this. They have this SEC. The SEC's website has this divided into two sections: college football playoff bowls and SEC affiliated bowls. The college football playoff bowls include the Peach Bowl and the Cotton Bowl, even though they are not college football playoff bowls this year.
And New Year's Six bowls.
That's where my confusion
kind of in their own category
arose.
So, Arizona and Oklahoma, I guess if we're talking about SEC teams, face off in the Valero Alamo Bowl.
Not
that
yet.
is tomorrow night. Oh, we're not ready to do that yet. Fun game, top 15 matchup. Arizona's done a really nice job this year. Jed Fish, really good head coach over there. Figure he'll be a hot name in upcoming cycles. But what do you think? Like, is Tennessee, obviously with what we do here, Tennessee is going to stick out. But
sure,
if you had to put yourself in a very neutral place, would you be more intrigued by Tennessee versus Iowa with Nico? Or we'll put it next to Ole Miss, Penn State in the Peach Bowl, or Missouri, Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl, or Georgia, Florida State in the Orange Bowl?
Well, I mean, for obvious reasons, Georgia, Florida State, I'm gonna watch kind of like a train wreck, like one of those things where you want to look away but you can't, because I know what's going to happen to Florida State. By the way, did you see Rodemaker went to the portal?
Into the portal.
Jay Rodemaker.
So who's going to be their quarterback?
That's what I'm saying.
Probably Brock Glenn, the kid out of West Tennessee.
The freshman that started for them, their third string quarterback. So again, the committee will be validated when the blood sacrifice is poor Brock Glenn.
Okay, has any major team in college football gone undefeated, ran the table in Power 5, won their conference, and had the year finish with such bad vibes more than Florida State? They didn't lose a game this year, and they're in a terrible place right now.
Catastrophic ending.
Trying to get out of the ACC. That's going to cost them over $500 million, apparently, down to their third-string quarterback.
We haven't talked
against
about that.
Georgia.
Oh, we have to call the lawyer. We have to call Lust.
Got to call Dan Lust. Left out of the playoff. Like, truly, I don't think there's been a team in the history of college football at the Power 5 level to go undefeated and finish with more bad vibes than FSU this year.
Oh, I don't think you could. I mean, this is the first time anything like this has happened.
No, Auburn 2004. This was the case. Auburn ran the table, won the SEC championship, and was left out of the national championship.
And that
game.
was still BCS?
BCS. It was I believe, USC and Oklahoma. But think about that. An undefeated SEC champ that doesn't even get the chance to play for a national title. Jason Campbell's Auburn Tigers in 04.
I guess I was just thinking under the current construct of the college football playoff. But yeah, that's probably the closest comparison that you could find.
But with FSU, you throw in the ACC situation and how desperately they're trying to get out of that, and now having to go face Georgia.
Yeah, I don't think there's a worse circumstance. Like, truly, with the way that they did so well to survive this season and survive their conference championship game, that this would be the result. And what awaits them is a bloodbath at the Orange Bowl, in all likelihood. 615-737-1045 is the number. If you would like to join the discussion, we would be happy to have you. Coming up next, it's the dumbest thing in sports this week. Bring your submissions, 615-737-1045. What is the dumbest thing in sports this week? We'll talk.
It is 11:01. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. Breaking news this morning reported by On3 Sports that Tennessee will start freshman quarterback Nico Iamaleava in the Citrus Bowl against Iowa on New Year's Day. Joe Milton put out a statement on social media saying goodbye to Tennessee fans this morning. The veteran will be with the team in Orlando while Nico gets the start. Meanwhile, the Tennessee Titans preparing for a trip to Houston, facing the Texans for the second time in 3 weeks as we continue to keep an eye on the health of quarterback Will Levis, who did not play against Seattle on Sunday with an ankle injury. Titans will practice later today. Meanwhile, in Houston, quarterback C.J. Stroud is expected to practice today, though he remains in the concussion protocol. The rookie has missed each of the last 2 games. Titans made 5 signings to the practice squad on Tuesday, in tight end David Asiasi, linebacker Tay Crowder, defensive tackle David Moa, defensive back Darius Phillips, and defensive back Kendall Sheffield. Mike Vrabel meets with the media coming up today at 12:15. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
What's happening? So Lucas lied to you, not breaking news up to the minute on his sports update. We have yet more breaking news. I'm going to work it into the dumbest thing in sports this week. That's what we've got coming up right now. It literally just broke as he was mid-sentence. Do you want me to shout you down in the middle of those? Because, like, a lot of times I just want to wave my phone vigorously at you, and then you have no idea what I'm waving at.
Yeah, if it's something Titans related, not a Denver Broncos quarterback change.
This is a pretty big news story, though.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Well, we can talk about this. Let's go ahead and do that. 615-737-1045 is the number. That's how you tell us what the dumbest thing in sports this week is. Hit it.
Let's be honest. You've already seen something this week that made you say,
What the is this?
That's bullshit.
What the hell? Give me some warning.
something so mind-numbingly idiotic that you just want to get it off your chest.
Dumber than a second coat of paint.
Some idiot.
You are really dumb. For real. It's the dumbest thing in sports this week on the Buck Rising Show.
The dumbest thing in sports this week is made possible by the Good Feet stores now open in Clarksville. If you're not doing the things you love because of your foot, leg, or back pain, the folks at the Good Feet store have been helping people like you feel better with custom arch support systems designed to alleviate foot, knee, and back pain. Locations in Nashville, Franklin, Mount Juliet, and Murfreesboro. Now Clarksville, too. Visit the Good Feet stores today. Owned for 20 years here in Nashville. Family owned for 20 years. The dumbest thing in sports this week, Lucas, is the Denver Broncos.
Let's ride.
Oh, not anymore, bud. You can ride your ass to the bench. Be riding pine. It's about the extent of the ride for Russell Wilson now left. But it's not even the Denver Broncos. Do you know who George Payton is?
Help me out.
He's the general manager of the Denver Broncos. He gave Russell Wilson one of the most ridiculous contracts I have ever seen. They are on the hook now for $39 million in guarantees next year.
Broncos country.
Hanging on to him in 2024 would mean $37 million vesting for 2025.
Let's ride.
So it's a $39 million buyout this offseason
Broncos country. Let's ride.
for $37 million buyout or a $37 million buyout next offseason.
Broncos country. Let's ride. Broncos country. Let's ride.
The ride is over. The Broncos just effectively ended Russell Wilson's career. Now, they're 1-3 down the stretch after having a bit of a surge in the middle of the season. Looks like they might push for the postseason. And Russ's numbers, I mean, he's just turned into a check-down quarterback. There's no more cooking. He doesn't cook anymore.
Tyler on the F&M Big Chat says, do you think Sean Payton had to go through Russ's agent to let him know he's not starting anymore? Great work.
It's just so bad. It's so bad. I want to pull up his Pro Football Reference just out of curiosity, see what his numbers look like.
This season,
I've got him at 26 touchdowns and 8 interceptions.
yeah, he's completing 66% of his passes, a QBR of 50.6, up from last season, which was 38.7, and over 3,000 yards on the year.
He's 7-8 as a starter this season in these 15 games. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's been to more than one. He has really kind of, and I mean, you know, the performance here in the last couple of weeks where his yards per attempt have just fallen off a cliff. And losing this weekend was difficult for the Broncos to overcome as they try and keep alive in the AFC postseason, but which, by the way, is a cluster bleep. I almost said the word. But yeah, the dumbest thing in sports this week is George Paton, the general manager of the Denver Broncos, who may get what he's looking for out of the Sean Payton deal, where they gave up draft capital to get him, and maybe Sean Payton's making the best of a bad situation. But the whole reason you traded for Sean Payton was why, Lucas?
To fix Russ.
To salvage Russell Wilson.
They were one of the hottest teams in the league 3 weeks ago. No, they were.
Let's see. I mean, I've got them at 5 straight wins.
They went on a run of winning 6 of 7 games.
Yeah.
They were red hot. They beat the Chiefs along the way. They beat the Lions. They were beating good teams along that run.
They beat the Chiefs for the first time. I think that's the first time that Patrick Mahomes has lost to the Broncos.
Oh, I'm sorry. They lost. They got blown out by the Lions a couple of weeks ago. They beat the Browns, the Vikings, the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Packers on that 5-game win streak.
Yeah. And beat them soundly, the Chiefs, 24-9.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns for Russ, no turnovers. Sacks have been a problem. He's been sacked 45 times this year. 5 times against the Pats the other night.
The Patriots.
Is it bad, though, that you read off those ridiculous guaranteed money numbers, and I almost don't even blink at them?
Well, you shouldn't.
Right? Like $39 million. I'm like, yeah, it's not that much.
Well, because Herbert is now making $52 a year.
And just with what we've talked about with Deshaun Watson and even the money that Ryan Tannehill is on right now with the Titans, it's almost like $39 million in guaranteed money is like, yeah.
Well, but that's the difference, though, Lucas, the guaranteed money. Because the sticker shock, like Justin Herbert is not actually making 52 plus a year. Now, he can make up to 52 plus a year, as can Burrow and Lamar under his current situation. But all those deals are 1 year removed from Russell Wilson's mega contract. And that you're already not getting sticker shock about what was a Russell Wilson mega contract. It's pretty telling about where the nature. It's going to be a fascinating discussion just while we're here before we get to yours. I don't want to take up too much of your time here. And we'll take some calls here in just a second. But I don't think there's a more interesting contract discussion this offseason than Tua. Because should Tua not just be the next guy that gets paid? That's how this works. I can't imagine Dolphins fans would sign up for that. Sure, give Tua all the money. The offensive line, we don't need to invest more finances in that, or the defense, or all these different things, or Tyreek, or whatever. Give Tua $50+ million a year. People will poop themselves.
How much of it depends on what they do in the postseason? And what are your options if you're Miami?
That's the thing.
If you're going to move on from
That's
Tua.
why you. What were Denver's options beyond Russell Wilson? Try and draft again? They hadn't made the playoffs since Peyton Manning. That was like 2015.
Jarrett Stidham will lead the way against the Chargers at home on New Year's Eve, and then at the Raiders, the regular season finale, which could very well be a win and in type of game.
What's your dumbest thing in sports?
Eastern Michigan.
Well, that was my own no.
We referenced it. Oh, was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll keep it brief because you already talked about
That's okay.
it. Eastern Michigan crashing in and punching a South Alabama player while wearing a football helmet. Always one of the dumbest things you can see. During the alma mater. Cowardly and dumb.
Your outrage in the Titans radio booth, screaming at people while people are trying to do a broadcast. The alma mater. You just kept
I couldn't believe it.
You were just yelling the alma mater.
You see these things happen post game, like handshakes going around, and then one guy's pissed at another guy, and he comes in with an uppercut. But when players are just lined up on the sideline, hand over their heart, swaying back and forth, arms around each other,
Yeah,
while the
that sucks.
band is playing the alma mater, and their family and friends are all standing there applauding them. And this dude comes in and just clobbers a guy.
Haymaker.
And then, did you talk about their entrance, their pregame entrance too?
No,
Like
that you can
right.
the damn cinder blocks.
Dumbest thing in sports is Eastern Michigan having a pregame entrance before the bowl game against South Alabama, where they tear down a bunch of cinder blocks and run through smoke to run out onto the field to lose 59-10.
That's right.
And then start an all-out brawl in the most cowardly fashion possible after the fact.
It's a good submission. It's a good submission by you. 615-737-1045 is how you tell us what the dumbest thing in sports this week is. A quick reminder before we go to the phones that we're still doing tornado relief stuff, just so you know. 1045thezone.com/help is a great resource if you are in the affected area. I was talking to Lucas during one of the commercial breaks. I drove through Fort Campbell and through Clarksville, coming back from Indiana over the Christmas holiday. It's devastating. It shook me up. It reminded me of 2020. If you or someone you know are looking for resources, if you're looking for volunteer opportunities, 1045thezone.com/help is where you go to help those in need from the December 9th tornadoes. All right, to the phones. Tommy is in Nashville. What's up?
Good morning, Buck. I'm going to vote for my buddy, old Coach Butch Jones, calling the timeout in the game. But for Arkansas State fans, they got to be encouraged. He did make it to a bowl game, and remember his motto, brick by brick.
I miss Butch so much.
Stop.
So much. What do you mean stop? Come on, there's a little bit of a sadist in you that would do a press conference again.
No.
Little 5-star hearts?
No.
Little champions of life?
Not worth it for me.
Little brick by brick?
The good thing for Arkansas State fans is
what's the guy's name that slipped on a helmet allegedly?
Shy Tuttle.
Shy Tuttle. Come on.
Tyler in the F&M Bank chat says literally no Vols fan will say that.
Well, I can because I'm not technically a Vols fan. I'm just a bandwagoner while I live in the state. I miss Butch Jones.
The good thing for Arkansas State is that next year they're not going into year 4. It is year 4. It's the 4th season that he'll be coaching them. But according to Butch, that'll actually be year 3.
Wait, what?
Yeah, he does the thing where year 1 is actually year 0. Where he's talking. Mickey brought this up a while back.
Shut up.
He was talking to the Little Rock Touchdown Club.
Come on, how do you not want that?
Oh, I'm so serious. He's talking to the Little Rock Touchdown Club, and somebody asks him a question about going into year 3, and he cuts them off, says, no. Year 1 was year 0. Last year was year 1. We're going into year 2. The old give yourself an extra year thing. Yeah, Butch is big into that.
He's not a real person.
Yeah, year 0, 2, and 10, that doesn't count. That didn't happen. We're going into year 3, not year 4.
You know, so you watch The Boys, right? The superhero show, or like the superhero show that's not really about superheroes that are actually bad guys, basically. I haven't seen it myself, but I've seen the GIF a million times of the dude who's the main character.
Homelander is the superhero you're thinking of.
Okay, and he's standing amongst a crowd of people that are cheering for him when he realized, oh, they're cheering for me. Everything's okay around here. You're looking around. Things should not be. They're cheering for me. Butch Jones reminds me of that guy. just a complete and total not real human being. Delights me. All right, we're going to have Will Levis and Mike Vrabel at the podium in the noon hour. Coming up next, though, given the Titans quarterback situation, a blessing that we've made it to 11:20 before we have to talk about the Titans quarterback situation. But we were debating this amongst ourselves this morning. Does it matter who starts at quarterback for the Titans? I'm going to explain what we mean by that coming up next. 11:20 seems like a good enough time, an hour and a half into the show before we have to start talking Titans. They'll be at the podium today. Texans on the horizon, New Year's Eve in Houston, the last road game of the 2023 season, the second to last game of the season. Now, if Sunday ends up being the last time that we see Ryan Tannehill start a home game at Nissan Stadium, well, I mean, how would you describe it? Meh. It certainly wasn't memorable by any stretch of the imagination. He wasn't awful. He wasn't Saints bad. He wasn't a catastrophe out there. There were some throws that clearly lacked touch. I thought his accuracy was off. There's a difference between ball placement and accuracy, as Greg Cosell regularly reminds me. And the ball placement, it felt like, was off throughout the course of the day, where a lot of you were accusing him of throwing hospital balls, and you'd be right. He did not intentionally put players in harm's way with some of the throws that he made, but inadvertently did so and caused a couple of incompletions, a couple of scary moments, honestly, if you're Chris Moore. And for Ryan Tannehill, we'll see what happens throughout the course of the week. Sounds like Levis is going to practice today in a limited capacity. He's expected to meet with the media in the noon hour. If he's up at the podium at 12:30, as is the custom, we will, of course, carry that press conference live for you. If not, we'll make adjustments as need be. But the question, so Bert and I were putting together the primetime show last night. And Bert was on me about, I didn't want to do hypotheticals because a lot of times you'll get hypothetical questions and maybe you can entertain them to an extent, but in reality, I don't really see the purpose because they never happen, so what's the point? You're entitled to dream about whatever results you might dream of or come up with or imagine in your mind had things gone differently in any number of situations, whether that be in football, whether that be in day-to-day life, relationships, whatever. You can try and tweak things in the past all that you want and imagine a different result to no avail because the results are in hand. So when Bert was pushing me last night on, well, let's do a topic about would Will Levis have been able to beat the Seahawks? Would Will Levis have made a difference in the game? I was pushing back on it for a while. But then I kind of looked at the game, and Lucas and I were talking about it this morning. What is the difference between the way that the Tennessee Titans lost 20-17, the seventh one-score loss of the season, the 11th one-score game, decided by one-score game of the season? What is the difference between that and the 7 other losses that they've had in one-score games this year? Or, the 6 other losses.
It felt like the same thing.
Deja vu.
Yeah. And we've had that a lot this season. We've had the same conversations on Mondays, same conversations on Titans Talkback, and it's just become kind of rinse and repeat when they get into those type of games.
So with that being said, Tannehill 152 yards passing, no touchdowns, no interceptions, two 37-yard runs, which were not 2 37-yard runs, 2 runs for a total of 37 yards.
Which is his highest rushing total since September 2021.
Well, that's the last time his ankle's been right. So that he looked a little bit of Tanner wheels out there, right? Got the crowd up for a second. Got a couple of first downs on it. But that was the highlight, right? The 2 runs were the highlight of the Ryan Tannehill experience. There was nothing else really there. There were no spectacular throws. There was nothing really going with D-Hop, right? Hopkins had 2 catches. He had way more targets than that, but 2 catches for 20 yards is what Hopkins finished the day with. There were some missed opportunities to Treylon Burks down the field. So the question becomes, the hypothetical becomes, would Will Levis have made a difference in that game? Yes or no? They've lost plenty of these games looking exactly that way, maybe not exactly that way with the quarterback, but they've lost plenty of these games with Will Levis going out there thinking that the game is won, and then the defense gives up a touchdown in an untimely fashion, i.e., what? Indianapolis. Just happened against the Colts here recently. Just happened against the Houston Texans here recently. These one-score games are all over the place. And by the way, this is where they should be. They are a 5-win football team. That they're getting close Mike Vrabel was asked, Lucas, about moral victories on Sunday in the postgame press conference by Corey Curtis, our buddy at WKRN News 2. And Mike immediately shut him down and said, there are no such thing as moral victories. There's no moral victories in life. There's no moral victories in sports. We don't operate that way. And the genesis of the question was, well, you're out there working with a bunch of dudes that Titans fans, even the most diehard Titans fans, are still learning the names on the roster. There's like 5 practice squad guys that got signed yesterday because they're just about to churn and burn the bottom of this roster to get through the final 2 weeks. But that they're losing down the stretch like this is indicative of what they are, right? They're good enough to be competitive. They're just good enough to lose in the margins, or just bad enough to lose in the margins, however you want to look at it. And if that's by 3, if that's by 5, if that's by 8 points, 1 score or less, all right, it's probably a pretty good measuring stick of what the Tennessee Titans in 2023 are. But Will Levis, would he have made a difference in that game? Will Levis is a better quarterback in 2023 than Ryan Tannehill has been. Yes?
Yes, without question.
Nobody's disputing that.
No, I don't think so.
Derrick Henry has as many passing touchdowns on the season as Ryan Tannehill does.
2?
That's right. 2 to 6 is the touchdown to interception ratio for Tannehill. Now, that's, he hasn't started a game since week 6, so it's been some time. He's had 10 weeks to not play football. And by the way, he looked like a guy who hadn't played in an NFL game in 10 weeks, let's say. But if Will Levis goes out there and leads the touchdown drive with 3 minutes and 21 seconds to go, Derrick Henry scores from 2 yards out, and the Seahawks get the ball back, is there any difference in the outcome? Let's just say that's the case. Now, maybe you can make the argument that instead of hitting Chris Moore or trying to hit Chris Moore on a crossing route where you have Treylon Burks streaking down the field behind the defender with an opportunity to at least try and make a 50-50 play and just doesn't take it. A couple of missed opportunities of Burks. Maybe you say Levis takes that. I don't know that that's the case, though. That seems to be the common theme among the quarterbacks, is that none of them seem terribly comfortable taking these shot plays to Burks. And maybe he's not been out there long enough for that to have that opportunity. But still, it's not like Tannehill didn't see him. Will Levis can't cover DK Metcalf. Will Levis can't rush the passer on a 14-play, 80-yard touchdown drive where the Seahawks offense had done nothing all throughout the course of the day. A credit to the Titans defense, or what's left of the Titans defense, for holding them down to that point. But when they needed to stop, when they needed the most critical stop, they didn't have it. Well, let Seattle go right down the field. Trey Avery, there were moments where Eric Garror was one-on-one with DK Metcalf. There's moments where Trey Avery is one-on-one with DK Metcalf. The size disparity is shocking. So I don't think that you can, even if it's just a hypothetical and you can pose however many different hypothetical circumstances in this specific one that you want to, that can alter the imagined outcome, I don't really think it makes a difference if Levis would have started that game over Ryan Tannehill. If all things are equal, if the ankle is, if the ankle is 80% right for Will Levis, I don't know that it makes that big a difference in that game.
How many times this season have the Titans lost in a game like this, 20-16, 20-17, 16-15, whatever you want to call it? There's been a lot of those. How many times have we walked away from a game like that talking more about what the defense did or didn't do in the fourth quarter on a drive that they gave up here, on a play that they gave up there, on a day where, when you step back and look at it big picture, the defense played well enough to win?
Yes.
More often than not this season, the Titans defense has played well enough to win. When you allow 20 points or less, to me, you've played well enough to win most of the time.
But the optics of that are an interesting thing to kind of dive into, right? Because you're right. For 3 3.75, they played well enough to win. And then all of a sudden, they didn't. All of a sudden, they can't stop the run against Devin Singletary. All of a sudden, Alec Pierce is getting behind Sean Murphy-Bunting for a 55-yard completion that sets up the game-winning touchdown in overtime for Gardner Minshew to hit, Pittman, with Trey Avery, the closest man in coverage. Like, they play good enough defense to win, Lucas, until they don't. And I don't want to fault them because they've been hanging on for 3 3/4 just to have the final drive undermine them the way that it does. But I'm wondering if that's not skewing the way that I'm looking at this defense, saying, are they actually playing good enough football to win? Because in reality, these moments are when the offense has played good enough to get them the lead and the defense has fallen short. Now, 3:21 is a lot of time in an NFL football game. And the Titans did get the ball back, and Tannehill took 2 awful sacks. Awful, awful sacks. And I get it. He's just trying to hang in there and get a playoff. He's not adapted to the protection situation in front of him. And instead of him getting drilled and delivering a football to a streaking Adam Humphries or a streaking Corey Davis or, whomever, A.J. Brown, he's getting a defender lodged in his face mask while the ball and he go hurtling to the ground for a sack. So it's not like they didn't have an opportunity. They had a timeout left with 57 seconds left on the clock after Seattle scored the touchdown. So theoretically, they could have gone back out there and done it.
Where do you think – sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Levis gets rid of – the only differentiation – I mean, that's not the only differentiation. But the biggest differentiation to me in an argument for people who would say that Levis would have made a difference in that game over Tannehill had he been healthy is that the ball comes out so fast with Levis. So fast. The delivery is compact. Even if it's a rocket down the field, it's getting out there. That is the place where I might be willing to hear an argument that Levis would have made a difference in that game.
So 7 one-score losses this season with, pretty much all of those coming down to the fourth quarter. Where do you think the Titans rank in the NFL in fourth quarter points per game?
29th.
28th at 4.3.
And Miami skews that.
By the way, yes, the 2 touchdowns
Two
in Miami
touchdowns
definitely
late.
skews that.
Skews that hugely.
By the way, Kansas City is dead last at 3.1 points per fourth quarter. The number 1 team is Denver, ironically, who just benched their quarterback. So the team that's dead last in the NFL has Pat Mahomes, and the team that is number 1 in this statistic just benched their quarterback. Denver averages 9 fourth quarter points per game. But the Titans in 19 and 20 were top 6 or better in fourth quarter points per game. In 21 were 14th, top half of the league. And last season finished dead last in the NFL, scoring 2.2 points per fourth quarter. They're bottom 5 this season in fourth quarter points per game.
So from the offense to the defense, this was Azeez Al-Share in the locker room afterwards, kind of talking about, the definition of insanity yet again.
Pretty much the same, just like this. Either we get the ball and can't stop them, or either they have the ball and we can't stop them, they make plays to win, or we get the ball to the offense and same thing. So obviously the last couple losses we've had here have been pretty much the same, heart-wrenching, and everybody obviously giving every effort they got. It's never a lack of effort. It's just executing a little bit more, doing a little bit more from top all the way to bottom, myself obviously included in that. And it just sucks.
It just sucks. Yeah, bud, I know. He's a team captain. And he has no words for us, Lucas. Like, I know he just said a bunch of words there. But you can't see him if you're listening on a break. Well, I guess you can't see him if you're live streaming the show today as well. But you can't see Azeez Al-Share's face when he's articulating this to us. But he looks somewhere between lost and shell-shocked. Because it's just the same bleep over and over and over again on defense. And it's, with or without Jeff, it's happening to them. With or without Amani Hooker, it's happening to them. So the personnel stuff, I guess you can give them the benefit of the doubt because they did place a ton of people on injured reserve basically after we got off the air on Friday. But beyond that, I mean, I don't know how much difference Will Levis would have made in that specific game because, again, the problems are layered. Your greatest issue is the offensive line. The offensive line is not the sole reason that you were losing these football games.
I mean, the problems are layered, but there does feel like there's a headline as far as the biggest reason why you lost that game to take away from all these one-score game losses, right? Like New Orleans. What was the headline? Yes, everybody could have played better to win. This block could have been made here, this tackle there. But what was the headline of that game in New Orleans? On
Tannehill.
Right. Talk about one of those plays that he missed. Titans win.
Yeah.
What's the headline in the Colts game that they lost in overtime here?
Oh, here. Just heartbreaking.
Special teams, right?
Oh, that you're right.
Two
That's
blocked punts and a missed extra point in
Yeah.
a game that went to overtime that you lost.
Good point.
What's the headline in the Houston overtime loss? On one thing that if it goes different, you probably win that game.
The extra point.
Missed an extra point in a game that went to overtime and you lost.
And also to Case Keenum and not Nico Collins. Damn, Noah Brown is running around out there just wide open in your secondary.
It is crazy, the margins on these Titans losses. On
razor thin.
The most minuscule things that have gone wrong that have ballooned into 5 and 10.
That's what I'm saying. None of these football teams are good. I'm convinced. Maybe the Ravens. Like the Niners. The Niners just got pantsed at home. Baltimore may well be the best team in football, but like these things are cyclical. The best team in football at the start of the year was whom? Start of the year.
The Niners?
Probably.
Who are you going to say?
You could have said Philadelphia, and I would have heard you out.
Yeah.
Like going into the season. The Chiefs lost in the opener to Detroit. We thought that those were just kind of opening night problems. No. The drops persist. But the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Niners, probably all three in some variation, however you want to stack them, the best teams in football this year. What's happened since then? The Niners have had spurts where Purdy looks mortal. The Eagles look more mortal than they ever have, and that includes in their 11th win of the season where Jalen Hurts is throwing 75-yard pick sixes. Yeah, I don't want to get too into it because we're going to talk about frauds in the NFL here in just a second. So let's get some phone calls. 615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation. Trey is in Nashville up first. Hey, Trey.
That's a great point, Trey.
It's disappointing because I can hear ourselves in the background, which means he's just a little bit delayed, but that's okay. Dante is in Gallatin. Hopefully he's prepared.
Well, good morning there, Buck. How you doing, man?
Great.
Listen, so you guys touched on some great things. The optics of our defense, as bruised and battered as they've been, they still competed, and we've always been a couple plays away from making a big difference on the field. The fourth quarter scoring, to me, looks like when our defense does their job, and that's get turnovers, give the offense the ball, we get so conservative in our play calling. They were literally only playing to maintain a piece of the lead, and we did that Sunday. Not Sunday, but against the Seahawks. We got up and we did the good old Henry left, Henry right, try a pass.
Now, wait, Dante, I don't mean to interrupt you. The Henry stuff worked. Like they had a touchdown drive. They took the lead in the fourth quarter.
We had a touchdown drive, but guess what? We took our foot off the pedal, said Henry left, we stopped playing like we're down. And I think that's the biggest factor, I think, for us is that, when you talk about the 49ers and even the Eagles, when they pull those victories out, what do you always hear? Brock Purdy with a pass at the fourth quarter, or you Hurts with a perfect pass at this point in the game, and all of those are what Levis brings to the game for the Titans when our run game isn't there. Is that for all those teams that are frauds, even Dak Prescott, as much as I hate to say it because I hate the Dallas Cowboys, but the quarterback makes the play that changes the game, and that's what Levis brings to the table, even with our abominable offensive line, is that the quarterback play makes a difference.
It's a minute on the clock, Dante. That's why you hear the music. We appreciate the call. Listen, Levis has one fourth quarter comeback. The conservatism of the offense was not the issue. You're fundamentally misunderstanding the game situation. The run game worked. Derrick Henry had a classic Derrick Henry performance. You have to be game specific. You can't just generalize all these results.
It's just the wrong game to pull from to make that argument.
If you wanted to make that argument, we could have heard you out in a variety of different situations that you're casting this wide net about that specific game where all they could do well is run the football and did so successfully. Then no, you're fundamentally incorrect there.
The Texans game.
I will accept the Texans
where you make
game.
that argument.
I will accept the Texans game. But you can't cast this wide net. You have to take these games week by week. 615-737-1045 is the number. Frauds in the NFL. We'll sniff them out next.
Life is busy. We could all use some extra time in our day, which is exactly why Two Rivers Ford offers mobile service. We'll bring the service to your driveway at no additional charge. Oil changes, brakes, batteries, the certified technicians at Two Rivers will perform basic maintenance on your vehicle wherever you are, so you'll have more time for moments like this. Schedule your mobile service appointment by scanning the QR code or calling Two Rivers Ford today.
All right, so it's not quite a Panzika Preds minute. Welcome back to the show. But, Lucas, we do have something Preds-related for people, yes?
We do. In the noon hour, not now.
Not yet.
An opportunity to win a pair of tickets to see the Preds take on Connor Bedard and the Blackhawks at Bridgestone Arena January 2nd.
Not yet.
Stick around.
Not yet. We'll tell you how you can win those in the noon hour. Be listening. If Mike Vrabel and Will Levis are speaking, we will find a way to inform you as to how you can win those Preds tickets in the noon hour, which is just 13 short minutes away.
They do host Carolina tonight at Bridgestone Arena.
Yeah, should be fun. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. In the meantime, Steve is in Lebanon up next.
Hey, fellas, thanks for having me. I was curious about the one-win, or one-score wins and losses for the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked it up on NFL.com, and 36% of the games in NFL are decided by one score or less. My reason for doing so is this roster is terrible. We have so many holes that, the offensive line is a problem. There's the quarterback issue, but it's more coming down to the fourth quarter and not executing the game plan.
No, I agree. Steve, that's a great point by you. We appreciate the call. The thing, that the players are not good enough to execute what they're trying to do is the difference. I don't think that all of the blame should be put on the players. I think there is plenty of things about the coaching staff that leaves something to be desired, and you can work your way down from the head coach to the coordinators to the passing game coordinators to, the run game coordinators, all these different things. But the roster is not good enough to execute in these critical moments, that there is a talent disparity between them and the teams that they're playing, and that the fact that 36% of these games, as Steve has pointed out, and I haven't been able to vet that number just yet, that Steve is saying 36% of these games in the NFL come down to one score or less. That sounds accurate. I again, not having the research in front of me or the number in front of me, I'm not able to vet that, but that sounds about right. A little less than half. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
So 7 one-score losses. How many one-score wins? We were looking at it. 3? Four. So 11 out of your 15 games.
That's right.
Have come down to one possession.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of feels like we have found Mike Vrabel's limit on being able to win and do more with less.
The limit is Andre Dillard.
This is too much less. They need less.
Less. Was this on the hotline?
Yeah, look at this. We got a special guest calling in.
I don't believe that. Tommy is in Old Hickory up next. What's happening?
What's up, y'all?
How are you?
I'm doing great. About to play some golf, so couldn't be better. But first of all, I want to say you guys have probably the toughest job on the planet right now by just saving grace from a pretty bad team, right? Just anything to look forward to is something to look forward to. So kudos to y'all. You're just finding anything positive we can go with, right? That said, we've been harping on the Seattle game. Seattle's that game doesn't really matter. We need to look forward, right? Let's look forward. And I think this team needs about 8 pieces, right? 3 on the offensive line at least, and then a couple corners and a wide receiver, maybe another linebacker. But you get all that done, and we have all the money in the world to work with. I think next year is going to be really good. And I just wanted to tell you guys, you're doing such a good job at what you do because you entertained me for this 20-minute drive that I just took.
That we kept you awake for your 20-minute drive, Tommy, listen, it is the definition of moral victory.
It's a moral victory, and I was just so entertained listening to you guys. I was like, I got to call. So, yeah. But, yeah, 8 pieces is what we need.
8 pieces. All right. Tommy, I want you to know that Lucas is playing favorites. He refused. I demanded that he play the Oscars music once you exceeded 1 minute, and he refused. Tommy Putnam does not want special treatment. He does not want the superstar treatment from you.
I didn't know. I didn't think I exceeded a minute. I guess I did. Okay, well, fine. Yeah, well, fire me. That's fine. Play the Oscar music. I really want to hear that.
That's Tommy
Tommy.
Putnam. Moon Taxi.
Well, we do play favorites. You always act so shocked when I play favorites with this game. And
it's such a missed opportunity by you.
Not only is Tommy our friend, but he also was saying nice things about us. And that's always going to earn somebody 30 to 60 more seconds.
That's fine, but he's not saying nice things about you. He's saying nice things about us, which usually precludes that different part of it. You cannot, the man has access to the hotline already. I don't know who's giving out that number. I demand answers, all right? But secondarily, that you are missing a golden opportunity to do the bit with one of our friends makes me want to throw my laptop. I'm sitting here screaming at Lucas while Tommy is rattling off all the pieces that they need. Play the music.
We play favorites, always have, and always will.
He wants the music. That's why he's here.
Well,
He wants the bit.
We gave it to him.
Got a minute late.
There's no bass line in the Oscars music.
Shameful.
Unfortunately for Tommy.
It's also in the shadows. Lucas just brings it up from the ground. It's just always playing there in perpetuity.
Maybe we could get Moon Taxi to make us a custom version of the Oscars music.
Oh, see, now you're asking. And now you're asking famous friends for things. I see you. I see you back there. Fine. Find yourself right now. You cannot find me for saying that I'm texting Mina Kimes about tight ends and not find yourself for asking for a custom song from Moon Taxi.
Think about that, though.
Thank you.
A groovy rendition of the Oscars music.
Would you stop?
By Moon Taxi? Oh, sign me up.
Shameless.
Maybe featuring Mickey Ryan.
Oh, my God.
Happy birthday, Mickey.
Now you're putting people into their band. Happy birthday, Mickey. Mike Vrabel and Will Levis are next.
We are 20 seconds away from the noon hour. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. The news this morning from On3 Sports. Tennessee will start freshman quarterback Nico Iamaleava in the Citrus Bowl against Iowa on New Year's Day. Veteran quarterback Joe Milton put out a statement on social media saying goodbye to Tennessee fans and announcing that he is headed to the NFL draft. Milton will be with the team in Orlando when Nico gets the start. The Tennessee Titans preparing for a trip to Houston. They'll be facing the Texans for the second time in 3 weeks. Mike Vrabel set to meet with the media here in about 15 minutes. We'll look to get an update on rookie quarterback Will Levis, who did not play against Seattle with an ankle injury. Meanwhile, in Houston, C.J. Stroud expected to practice today, though he remains in concussion protocol. Stroud has missed each of the last 2 games. Around the NFL, the Denver Broncos have benched quarterback Russell Wilson. It'll be Jarrett Stidham coming in this week for Denver. And in Green Bay, Jair Alexander, the cornerback, has been suspended 1 game for conduct detrimental to the team. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
What's happening? It's the final hour. Thanks for hanging out with us so far. Been a fun show. If you're just now jumping in, perhaps we'll have some more fun in this last hour remaining. We got phone calls. We'll take them here in just a second. We got Mike Vrabel and Will Levis at the podium. You'll hear from them in just about 15 to 20 minutes from now. We got Russell Wilson on our television screens because he is benched for the foreseeable future. Denver trying to avoid paying as much money as humanly possible, even though they have given him as much money as humanly possible. All that just to not play quarterback for them for $40 million this offseason, it seems. But that's not what we're here to talk about, Russell Wilson's benching. I'd like to take a look at some frauds. Now, you could probably come in here and accuse us of being frauds. That's not the kind of frauds that I'm talking about. I'm talking about NFL frauds. Contenders, quote unquote, who you think are just a little bit fraudulent, or maybe a lot of bit fraudulent right now. If you look at the NFL standings, and we'll work our way through the AFC and the NFC, how many of these teams would you actually say that you trust? Because I think heading into Monday Night Football, most people would have said that they trust the 49ers, especially at home, to handle business, even if it's against the best opponent in the other conference, a Super Bowl preview, as it was dubbed. The Ravens, by the way, are part of just the next game of the year, it seems, with the Dolphins. I think going to Baltimore this weekend in what will decide the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. That'll be locked up. It could be locked up this weekend if Baltimore wins. So, let's take a look at the AFC. Let's start with division leaders. Dolphins, Chiefs, Ravens, Jags. Who's the fraud?
Jags.
Jags are frauds. Big frauds. Trevor Lawrence is coming in. Now, listen. Just because they're frauds now doesn't mean that they've been frauds all season. But I'm willing to advocate for the Jacksonville Jaguars as frauds all season.
We are watching in real time something similar to what the Titans did last season.
Mm-hmm.
Jags were 8-3.
They are now 8-7, as is 2 of the other 4 AFC South teams. The Colts, 8-7. The Texans, 8-7. Jags are losers of 4 straight.
They host Carolina this weekend.
Oh, good. Coming off a win.
So you either get right.
Did Carolina win this weekend or last weekend?
Carolina won last weekend.
That's right. They
beat Atlanta.
And then Art beat the Colts.
Art bounced back nicely, as his job seems to be in question. But you're either talking about a get-right game against Carolina to end the losing streak, or panic mode in Jacksonville for a season collapsing before their eyes if they lose to the Panthers at home, where Jacksonville has not been good.
They've been awful. They've been outright wretched at home. Home games not named London. They have legitimately been bad. And I don't say that just to make a joke. Like, truly, they are good in London and bad in Jacksonville at, it's not TIAA, it's Everbank.
Their last home win was the Titans, November 19th.
Oh. And that was a big home win. So, of those four, Jags are the most fraudulent and have been the most fraudulent consistently this year. I will hear the argument for the Chiefs. I still believe Patrick Mahomes to be great. I believe those receivers to be wretched. And I believe that the Chiefs should have been not as cheap and should have paid for DeAndre Hopkins because nobody needs that man worse than Patrick Mahomes does right now. It's so bad. So then to the NFC. The Eagles, with 11 wins, are still leading the NFC East. The Niners, the Lions, and the Bucks at 8-7. Who's the fraud?
Eagles, Lions, Niners, Bucks.
Eagles, Lions, Niners, Bucks.
If there's one team you look at and say, go ahead and put them out of the Super Bowl picture, it's Tampa. But I don't feel good about calling Tampa frauds. Because if anything, they've been punching above their weight. And Baker Mayfield is playing some really good football right now.
He's going to be their quarterback next year. There's been reports out of Tampa that they want to roll with Baker next year.
He deserves that opportunity.
Hell yeah. So they're not frauds.
No.
They came in. We didn't know. We called it the worst quarterback battle in the league. Baker versus Trask. We thought they might be picking first overall. It's an 8-win football team.
So Philly?
Philly.
So Philly, who is a better football team than Tampa, but are the frauds in this scenario.
Frauds.
I agree.
Now, here's the difference. If they can hang on and find ways to clinch home field advantage, they're 6-1 at home, Philadelphia. The Niners are 5-2 at home. And while Purdy looks a hell of a lot more mortal, certainly on Monday Night Football, than he has as of late, when healthy, San Francisco is still the best team in the sport. Philadelphia, and it's not, I'm not doing this because, Titans fans are rooting against A.J. Brown. Maybe you're not rooting against A.J. Brown. I don't know. Some of you are, some of you aren't. Some of you are rooting for Kevin Byard. Some of you are not rooting for Kevin Byard. Some of you are rooting for Marcus Mariota, Zach Cunningham, all the other Titans that are playing, Julio Jones, Titans legend, all the Titans that play on the Eagles roster right now. I don't know how you feel about it, but it's not even the offense. Even though Jalen Hurts has not been the best version of himself this year, the defense are frauds. They led the league in sacks last year. They can't rush the quarterback. What Geno Smith did to the Titans on Sunday is the same thing that Drew Lock did to Philadelphia.
Exact same score.
Exact same thing. Trailing, late. I don't know how many plays it took Drew Lock to get down the field. It took Geno 14 to go 80 yards, but scored a touchdown, did the same thing. JSN in the back of the end zone.
They damn near gave up a comeback loss to the Giants.
Yeah. God. With, again, one of the worst pick sixes that I've seen this year. Jalen Hurts, a 75-yard pick six.
They finish out with Arizona and the Giants again on the road.
Philadelphia.
Yes.
Frauds. And here's the thing. It can be more than just fraudulence. That's a team that played in the Super Bowl last year. I know that we spend a couple of months every year talking about how much we miss football and how much we want football back in our lives. That season is so long, especially if you make it to the Super Bowl, just to lose. So if you've extended your season by an additional month, playing a sport that's more vicious and violent than any other out there, save rugby, and at a certain point, it just wears on you. The Golden State Warriors are a great example of this, and I know they play a hell of a lot more games in professional basketball than they do in football, but like they had the best team. They had the most winning team in the history of professional basketball in the regular season, and Katie left, and it petered out because winning and the length of these seasons and working together, working with the same people, sharing the same spaces for months and months and months on end, you get tired of one another. It's human stuff. I don't know who got tired of, Sean Desai, the Eagles' I don't want to call him disgrace defensive coordinator, but they took his job from him and gave it to Matt Patricia, let him keep the title, but send him off the sideline, send him back to the booth. They said, get out of here. going to give it to Matt Patricia. Let him call the defense now. This stuff grinds on you.
And it feels like the Lions are the antithesis of that as far as a team that seems as united as any across the league, and that's a credit to Dan Campbell. But come playoff time, Buck, who are you going to trust more? When push comes to shove, Jalen Hurts or Jared Goff? Because if you want to sit here and call the Eagles frauds in the NFC and the Lions, who just clinched their first division title since 93, and they are united. That team is as locked in and bought in as any, just from what we see at surface level. But when it comes playoff time, who are you going to trust more in the NFC?
It's not even about Goff for me. It's about the defense. Lions defense bad. It's basically Aiden Hutchinson, Brian Branch, and then the rest of them. Like, it's not a good defense. So, to put it on the quarterbacks, I just don't think that Lucas this year, I know it's going to sound ridiculous. I know people are going to fight with me about it. There is not that big a disparity to me this year between Goff and Hurts. To me, it comes down to the way that these two teams can't get stops. You want to give away some Preds tickets?
It is a winning Wednesday with 104.5 The Zone and the Nashville Predators. So the Preds' 25th anniversary season is continuing, and we have tickets for you to see them in Smashville. Thanks to 104.5 The Zone's ticket window. It is sponsored by Window Nation. Caller 5 now, 615-737-1045 will win 2 tickets to see the Preds take on the Chicago Blackhawks Tuesday night. That is coming up January 2nd at Bridgestone Arena. If you miss out, tickets are available at NashvillePredators.com/tickets.
Mike Vrabel's next. Mike Vrabel's up at the podium. He just said Will Levis is going to practice today. Go live to St. Thomas Sports Park.
Doing things outside of what the scheme is that could ultimately affect the team, but I don't think any of those players, I hope that they all, have great games and can achieve whatever it is that they're looking to achieve.
Especially with Harold, how good has it been to kind of see him hit his stride here over the last 6-7 ball games?
Well, I just think that he's feeling, more comfortable, and again, every injury and every rehab and every, everybody heals differently. Things, some guys take less time, some guys take more time, and again, I just think that it's been good to see him. He's been out there every day. He's been working, and he's been with us for a lot. So you want good things to happen to people like Harold.
Is it maybe harder to go get people off somebody else's practice squad than it appears sometimes, in that they'll get promoted by their team, or maybe decide to stay, get a raise and decide to stay?
Yeah, there's a lot of those situations that happen this time of year. When we take somebody off somebody's practice squad, we're required to keep them for a minimum of 3 weeks on the active roster. Some teams do. We've tried to do that in the past, and some teams will promote said player. Maybe a veteran player that has, a number of credited seasons that's on the practice squad that may ultimately get called up to a playoff team, may stay. There's a lot of different scenarios, and I think that a lot of those depend on the individual player, what he's done in his career, what he wants to do, the opportunity that may be presented, whether it's here or somewhere else.
You decide to add somebody to position versus trust the depth you have on the practice squad?
Well, one, we didn't have any depth on the practice squad. When you had 5 guys, the depth is somewhat limited. Sometimes it's a player that has played in the past and is, what you would call a veteran player, versus a younger player that may be on the practice squad that you're still developing, working with, and still want to move forward with, but may not be ready for the game.
Left tackle position, how does that look for you, with Jalen Duncan in the wrist and then Dillard getting his time? How does that look for you this week?
Well, I think it's too early to tell. I thought Dre finished the game well, and expect more from Jalen. So we'll kind of work through the week and kind of see how that goes, and try to come up with a decision that we think is best for the team, and then everybody that's up on the game day roster has to be ready to play.
Reese, you had a follow-up too?
Yeah, thank you. That change, that was strictly due to injury?
No, it was just whether it's injury or performance or a decision that I made, it just was felt like we could get more from that position.
How did Otis do in his snaps on defense?
Well, I think there was, again, Otis plays with the speed and the violence that I appreciate. We asked him, to use his hands on kickoff coming out of last week. He went down there, was involved in a double team, used his hand, shed at, I think, the last kickoff that we had, and made the tackle. He ran and made some good tackles. He chased the football. Had a really, really nice play over on our sidelines. Came from a long way away. Great angle, great speed, and held him to like 2 yards. So, and then there was some drops and some details, and I'm like, we'll figure all that out. And I promise you, the most important thing right now is that you play with an effort, a violence, a speed. You take the coaching, and we'll get some of the details that we'll have to have this week cleaned up.
As you monitor Will Levis this week and trying to see if he plays on Sunday, anything extra that goes into it, Coach, when you talk about his physical play and maybe learning from past experiences of how to maybe slide or do things that aren't.
He dove, he slid, he protected himself the last time we played the Texans, and he dove forward and got us 5 yards, and we had a half a yard, and so I rewarded him by going for it on fourth and a half a yard. So, we're not gonna, we're not gonna restrict these guys to, playing outside of how they are wired to play. And it's an instinctive game. You know, there's sometimes the pocket breaks down if you're a quarterback and you have to be able to move and avoid, protect the football. And ultimately, we would like you to do the best that you could to protect yourself, especially at that position. But there also is a responsibility that you have to try to, help the team on the field and score a touchdown or convert on a third down.
What do you like about what Marlon Davidson's given you so far?
It's a player that has come in and bided his time and worked. I thought he got in good shape while he was here, and the details and the technique, and took advantage of his opportunity. And so now he's earning more opportunity, and I like coaching him and enjoy having him around.
How did Ojukwu do in the tackle eligible role he had Sunday, and does that merit maybe more work going forward?
I think it does. I think it does, at least going forward. There was certainly an excitement and a willingness to want to go play. Saw him, trying to finish, and it was a new opportunity for him. So there's some mistakes and things that we will have to coach and clean up. But usually when you saw the end of the pile, he was there, Rader was there, or Ruppy was there. So that's a good start.
Mike, when you brought guys either up from the practice squad or in off the street, you've had a lot of success getting them ready to play in just a short amount of time. What do you attribute that to? A simplified approach, or how does that work for you?
Well, I think one, it's always on the player, right? Well, we're going to give you as much as you can handle, and the role that you have each week. I think our coaches do a very good job of getting those guys ready, and then also trying to put them in a role that will be consistent with what they know. We don't want to put them in a bad position, that is forcing them to do something that maybe they didn't learn over the course of 3 or 4 days.
You've got 16 on IR now. Is there anything different about the injuries this year? Is there any different feel to kind of the injuries you had
I think
this year?
they probably are. I mean, they're just, some of these IR, we got into a situation where we had to make a decision on, I talked about this the other day or yesterday when, maybe it would have been a couple weeks, but, if you weren't available this week, we needed the roster spot. So, we've got some MCLs in there, and, I'll try to do my best to continue to evaluate that, the health of the team. I think that's obviously always something that's critical. But when you're talking about some MCLs or AC sprain or whatever, things that occur during a football game, a very violent game, it's hard to account for some of those things when guys fall into Jeff's knee or Amani's knee, just using those as an example.
So you feel like that's maybe not as bad as it's been the last couple of years?
No, I mean any injury is bad. Any injury, anytime we lose a player, it affects the team. And so, we'll have to obviously look at those things and continue to do it. But that's why we have, a practice squad and guys that can come in there and step in. And, it's never great when you lose players. It's, something that, you'll have to deal with through the course of the season. And trying to get them as ready to play. And then when injuries do occur, that we all have a great responsibility to get the player back as quickly as possible.
You touched on it yesterday walking off. How do you manage the week with a shorthanded team and group of young guys and vets as well, trying to get everybody, get some speed work in? And
we'll get some of that early on with some guys that have not played a lot of football for us, and where we've been the last couple weeks, really not being able to do a lot of speed. We'll try to get some work in there, and then we'll see where things are tomorrow.
With Tajay Spears and the kick return, I guess it was a couple weeks ago, you took him off of that unit. What was behind that, and do you plan on using him in that way again?
I think Tajay's valuable. player just like everybody else, and just made a decision. Some of these kickers that we're playing, they have the ability to put the ball in a lot of different places and make it advantageous for their coverage, the hang time, and you see us kind of trending towards just fair catching it and putting it on to 25.
Guys good?
Thanks, guys.
Mike.
That is Mike Vrabel speaking with the media before quarterback Will Levis gets up on the podium. So a couple of different things covered there. I thought it was interesting, Lucas, that he brought up, or he was asked about Duncan and Dillard, because that did happen in the game. Now, Titans radio, Ramon had the sideline report that he had a wrist injury, Duncan did, and that was something, that was what forced the change. And it might have been in real time that forced the change, but
Ramon's initial report was Duncan's on the sideline, helmet on, kind of arms crossed, and Ramon said, it's the look of a guy that's been pulled. And then he saw the wrist getting taped up and talked about the wrist injury. So it sounds like it might have been a little bit of both.
Yeah, well, that's basically what Mike Vrabel just indicated there, that it was more than just about the wrist. And that they're going back to Dillard. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter.
Matters if Levis is back there. I get what you're saying in that I guess it doesn't matter in that it could just yield the same results over and over.
Well, but Duncan is on the roster beyond this year. Dillard is not.
Right.
So he may not be, but he's likely to be.
Like what they do in Houston technically doesn't matter, but what's in front of Will Levis very much matters if Will Levis plays.
I thought Tannehill had decent pockets, especially late. Now, I'm not saying that Dillard is good now, or that Dillard is a viable option. But I didn't think that the onus, 6 sacks were not on the offensive line from Sunday. Can we agree on that? I mean, the 2 egregious ones and I don't want to call them egregious. Egregious is unfair. Ryan Tannehill is trying to make a play. Instead, he takes a sack with 57 seconds left on the clock and 1 timeout that they have to burn after the first sack that he takes, and he takes another one later on that same drive. Then he throws to Colton Dowell, who can't get out of bounds. Time expires, and the game ends with a which is basically what our synopsis was in your absence yesterday. It's just...
Shamed I missed it.
Yeah, well...
Sounds like must-listen stuff.
Buddy, there were at least entertaining people like our friend Tommy Putnam, who called in earlier to hand us a moral victory, to hand us a participation trophy. You guys have nothing to talk about, and yet you entertained me for my 20-minute drive today.
We like being told we're good.
Victory.
Did you think that was good? Tell me I'm good. Tell me it was good. Tell me I'm good. Tell me I'm good. Tell me that was good. Tell me I'm 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 good. Thank you. Is it that hard?
It's a little bit of D in everybody. Phrasing.
So 6 sacks conceded by the Titans. How many of those were in the second half? Because we talked about this in the Houston game, every sack they gave up after halftime. Can you tell me off the top of your head how many of the 6 sacks came after halftime on Sunday against Seattle?
4.
5.
5 of the 6 sacks came in the second half. That again, that's for the caller who called earlier about the conservatism in the offense. I'm more rounding form on that, just to say they're trying to find out how they can win football games. It's not about conservatism, it's about keeping the quarterbacks upright. They can't drop back and play. They cannot. Tannehill is responsible for 3 of the 6, let's say. The 2 late, for sure. He had another one where he's patting the ball. To see him, well, no, he's not patting the ball, but he's kind of double clutching it a little bit, the way that you used to see old Ben Roethlisberger do, where he's not sure initially of what he's seeing. And I don't want to misconstrue things. I don't know if he's sure of what he's seeing in real time, but that you see him thinking more than you used to, which is instead of that, just, all right, let it rip. Kind of the Mariota stuff. Mariota's a better comparison. Mike Vrabel's whole thing with Marcus in his first year was we just want to get him comfortable enough to where he can let it rip. And the reality of it was that his elbow would not allow him to let it rip, so there was fighting against a comfort level and his distrust of his own body, which was fair. And
But
earned.
decisiveness.
Decisiveness.
I mean, that was one of the biggest pluses of Tannehill coming in at quarterback. He was decisive.
Thinking less is not always a good thing, but in sports, it can be. You don't want to think about whether or not you trust Treylon Burks to come up with a 50-50 ball. You just want to launch it because you got a guy. You got a one-on-one down the field. You got to take it on second down. It's a shot play. Go. Instead of the crosser across the middle that falls incomplete because the receiver gets blowed up and the pass falls. Levis is up. We'll go to St. Thomas Sports Park now.
It's tough. I mean, it's tough wanting to be out there and play and watching everyone else, but I mean, it's still fun. It's a different perspective. Obviously, I had that for first half or so of the season, but when you're not even suited up or whatever, it's a little different. But trying to find ways just to be a good teammate and cheer the guys on. But definitely would rather be playing and looking to get back to playing here soon.
How's the ankle coming along?
It's good. It's coming along well. Doing everything I can to get it back, and yeah, I mean, we'll see how this week goes, but taking it day by day.
What have the days been like for you as far as rehabbing and still studying and trying to get everything done?
Yeah, I mean, it's continuing to just prepare as if I was playing and keeping the same mindset regardless of the situation. It's tough, but I mean, the time in the training room obviously takes away from the other time that you usually have, but I mean, that's part of the game. It's part of the sacrifices you have to make. And yeah, I mean, just continuing to work with these guys to get me ready as soon as possible.
How important do you think it is to play a couple more games, this season?
Yeah, I just want to play ball. I mean, I just want to go out there and win games and leave the season with a good taste in our mouth. We've had some tough losses and looking to just get the little things corrected, especially playing a team this week that we just played 2 weeks ago. You don't get that a lot, so that's interesting. But opportunity to really kind of put a new version of us on tape versus that same defense, which is going to be exciting.
Is it all pain tolerance at this point, or is there anything specific that you can't do yet or that you want to prove that you can do?
I'd say it's mostly just pain tolerance, yeah.
Part of you wants to go head-to-head with Stroud. Looks like he may be on the verge of coming back this week. Is there a part of you that wants to go head-to-head with another member of the 2023 draft class like you did with Bryce Young?
Yeah, I'd love to compete with him. I mean, he's a heck of a player, and never got to compete against him in college. And watching him from afar and what he's been able to do has been really impressive. So, hopefully he's getting better here soon, and it would be a lot of fun to compete against him.
Well, how much does it help with your limited preparation than this week, having just played them 2 weeks ago? If you have to miss some things in the training room, does it help that everything's still kind of fresh in your mind?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny, like even just with the 1 week in between, it's like you can get your wires crossed. Like, oh, this is how Seattle's playing it, and how we want to, either ID things or do whatever. But it's important to be able to get your mind back set in the right space. But it is a lot more fresh because it is just 2 weeks ago, and it doesn't mean that it's any less preparation though.
We talked before about how DeAndre inspires you to elevate your game, but how much has he been a common influence on you? Just like having that veteran, that guy who's seen it all, been through it all. How much has that been like common for you?
It's been cool. I mean, it's been cool in that just who he is and what he's been able to do, and that he must see something in me to really care and try to pour into me. So I try to take everything I can from him, and we're continuing to build our relationship, and I feel like it's just gotten stronger and stronger throughout the weeks, and hopefully finish off these next couple of weeks feeling really, really good about our chemistry as well as everyone else's.
And you have like that high energy personality. He's such a chill, nonchalant guy. Like, do you ever have moments where you're like, "Come on, man, get hyped with me"? Those types.
I mean, that's his type. You got to see how dudes are wired and approach it appropriately. And he's definitely one of those dudes that it's not going to do any good to get in his face and scream at him. But you got to just massage the relationship and understand kind of what's the best way to get through someone. And with him, it's probably the best thing is having a level-headed one-on-one conversation about what's going on. Obviously, sometimes emotions are flying and things can get a little higher, but you got to just maintain the relationship the best way possible.
You obviously understand it very well, and that guys are different, and being around football teams your whole life have come to understand that. Are there ever moments where you wonder how somebody can be like that, just based on how you are? Like, how can a guy be that calm when it's so exciting? And
yeah, I think we all fall into that with anything in our lives or any opinions we have. Like, how does this person think about it this way when I do? But that's just the beauty of this world and the game, and just how everyone's different. And it's the job of the leaders to understand how they are different, and then in turn how to respond and how to approach them to get the most out of them, the best out of them. So something I'm continuing to try to do and better myself at, and looking to focus on here these next 2 weeks especially.
Well, I know this is the first time, obviously, playing in the NFL and division opponents. Do you relish the opportunity of playing spoiler at all in these situations with Houston and the Jags down the stretch?
Yeah, I mean, now that we're eliminated from playoff contention, we talk about different ways to motivate us, and that's definitely one. I just want to win games, and I'm not as much excited about knocking them out as I am as just winning a football game, and if that's definitely a little bit of extra motivation, but we're going out there to put our best ball on tape and to come back with a win. That wins that we haven't had as much as we'd like to this year. So if we are able to finish off these next couple of weeks with some wins, it makes us feel a whole lot better about everything.
You ever had a tape job, I guess, as extensive as the one I guess we saw on Friday, and was that, I guess, to kind of give the whole leg stability there?
Yeah, it was for my knee. I was still feeling a little uneasiness there, but tried to tape it up in a way so that I could move around a little better, but didn't end up finishing that day. But these guys, they got all sorts of tricks and stuff to make you forget about what hurts, so I'm willing to try anything.
Well, you're obviously a really competitive guy, and injuries aren't new to you, but have you had to figure out how to navigate any heightened pressure in this format, in this league, and coming back from the injury and going about it in the recommended timeline?
Yeah, I think it's tough to come back to the field and play with a different energy, like knowing that you're hurt. Like, it's hard to play differently and have that in the back of your mind. I feel like you can't play that way. You got to be able to just go full tilt, regardless of what's going on, or else you get yourself and your teammates hurt. So, there's pain. Everyone's got pain at this point in the season. Everyone's dealing with something. You kind of just got to put it behind you and play as if you're not hurt.
How much have you been able to, I guess, learn week over week, just being a rookie in this league, and how much does that, I guess, like, make you itch to get back that much more of, like, what could I be learning, how could I be growing in these games?
Yeah, I think a lot of the growth I've made has just been through mistakes and good things I've done on the field, and just with the mistakes, trying to limit them and not have them pop up again. I've done a decent job of that, I think. So seeing the growth from week to week is exciting, and then to miss out on that growth for a week is disappointing. But like I said, these 2 weeks are really, really important. We want to get these wins and get out of this season, feeling good about how we finished it and on an uptrend going into next year. And for me, that's important with me and my game. But just got to continue trusting my process and taking advantage of the reps I get.
How much different did the game look from the sideline last week compared to those first 6 weeks? Like, having played in games now, were you seeing things from the sideline that you think you maybe wouldn't have seen those first couple of games?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely more in tune to just the pictures and kind of what was going on and what we were looking at and what we were facing and why it wasn't working or why it was working. And then it's just staying in tune with what we're thinking game plan-wise. I just feel like my football IQ has increased, and with that, my understanding of everything that's going on has gotten deeper, which makes the game more fun to watch.
That is Will Damn Levis. To hear Jeffrey Simmons tell it, Will Levis at the podium. Last call for phone calls. We can react to what some of the rookie quarterbacks said. We got some people waiting there. We'll get you over to Blaine and Mickey featuring Brad Hopkins. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Last call for phone calls if you got them, 615-737-1045 before we turn the reins over to the very venerable Blaine Bishop. Brad Hopkins hanging out here in studio doing Blaine and Mickey. Today, apparently, Mickey Ryan went to an Arkansas State game just to watch Butch Jones's face melt off in fury. Good on Mickey for choosing to spend his vacation time that way. God bless you. That's a tough one. So we have caller royalty on the line, and it's not, we play favorites. I'm just going to be honest. We play favorites. You're not supposed to. We do. Sue Ann is on the line, so she skips the line. Hey, Sue Ann.
Hey, Buck. Thanks for taking my call.
Of course.
So I just had a hilarious experience. So I'm sitting in my car, minding my own business, listening to, you and Lucas, and, Coach Vrabel, talking his talk and everything that he says. And all of a sudden, my whole body starts to vibrate, like from the top of my head down to my toes. And as I'm sitting there thinking, holy mackerel, and my eyes cut, one way to the other, what's going on here? I'm like, is it God? Should I listen to what he's saying? Is it Coach Vrabel? I mean, he just told us that he promised us that they were going to figure it out and they were going to get it together and make it happen. And as I sit there, my eyes went into my rearview mirror, and it's just some dude in his car thinking he's Mr. Bass Nectar, and it had nothing to do with God or Coach Vrabel.
I thought you were alluding to an entirely different experience, Sue Ann, but we...
Well, you know what? It's okay that you went there, because for one brief moment, that's where I went too. I was like, I think I like this.
Sue Ann, I love you so much. I love you so much. You have no idea.
Oh, that is Hall of Fame. That is Hall of Fame stuff.
Oh, well... Sue Ann, I'm glad that your experience was all of the things all at once. Everything everywhere all at once for Sue Ann during a Mike Vrabel press conference. I cannot say that I have had a similar experience during a Mike Vrabel press conference, but I'm glad somebody does. I don't know how the hell Mike in Nashville is going to follow that. Go ahead and try, Mike.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Nothing.
Hey, man, I love you guys' show, man. This is Mike Jones, man. I'm from 234 Sports Talk Show, man. Check it out, man. We up and coming. But I wanted to talk about, the Tennessee Vols, football with Joe Milk, Ron Slay, Ramon Foster, especially I'm from West Tennessee, Haywood County, man, so they both know about dealing with them programs out there. But what I want to say about with Joe Milton is this, man. The cat, man, he's gotten like a bad rap, I think, as far as this past year. He was a bridge between, Henry Hooker and Nico, and so. I'm just happy for the guy, man. People still want to trash him and stuff like that on Tennessee Vol Network, fans and stuff like that. Give the boy a break. I think with the right coaching, I think he might be a great NFL quarterback for the right team. You know what I'm saying? I mean, who's say like we look at Brock Purdy? You know what I'm saying? He ain't all that. You know what I mean? So you can get a guy that can sit and just get the right coaching with the right deal with the mill.
Thanks for the call, Mike. That's 60 seconds on the clock. That's how the game works. Joe Milton and Brock Purdy as comparisons that's not something that I thought we would do today, Lucas. Did not have that on my bingo card.
Yeah, he's right in that.
Somebody's going to take a chance on Joe.
Sure. Oh, he's going to get drafted without question.
Brad is cackling over here at our Oscars music.
You could thank Joe Milton for his time at Tennessee. You can be appreciative of how good of a teammate he was throughout that time and some of the good moments. You can also be very excited to see the future of your program in Nico Iamaleava in the Citrus Bowl.
Even you got scared of the name. You hit a speed bump there. What happened?
Who's scared? Who's scared? Nico,
Nico's probably scared.
I have mastered that
the
name.
Iowa defense is not a fun one.
I have
you didn't
mastered that name.
You went Nico before you went Nico.
Nico. Yeah, of course I get the first
Hell,
name.
Mike didn't even say it right. He said Nico.
I mess up the first name before I mess up the last name. Hard to
I'm
do.
telling you, some poor play-by-play guy who has no idea what's coming for him in the damn Citrus Bowl is about to look at Nico Iamaleava's name on a depth chart for the first time and be like, oh.
Dave Fleming's fine. He's a pro. He'll be all right.
Okay. Polls, please.
Oh, yeah, baby. This poll update is shagadelic, baby. I have a Danger Powers here. I'm Austin Powers. Danger is my middle name, baby. This is one poll I'm interested in, baby. It's shagadelic. I haven't had an update in 2023 yet. Wink, wink. Oh, behave. Take it away, Lucas Panzica. Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, who sells below MSRP on any non-specialty new Ford. Do you like the decision to start Nico for the Vols in the Citrus Bowl? 87% say yes, I love it. 13% say no, Joe deserves the opportunity.
Joe deserves the opportunity, but both things can be so. Joe deserved the opportunity to play in the bowl game if he wanted to. Whoever decided that Joe was not going to play in the bowl game, whether that's him, whether that's Josh Heupel, whether that's both of them so that he can prepare for the NFL draft, that's fine. It's nothing personal against Joe. I'm just tired of watching him play. I'm excited to watch Nico Iamaleava play. I am not overwhelmingly enthused about watching the Iowa offense play, but at least the Citrus Bowl will now have something entertaining for all of us.
Would Will Levis have made a difference against the Seahawks on Sunday? 75% say yes, he would have. 25% say no. Result would have been the same.
Yeah, I mean, the result probably would have been the same. Will Levis doesn't cover DK Metcalf. Like, the Titans defense played well enough for 3 3/4 and then gave up an 80-yard touchdown drive at the end. It's unfair. They lean too much on the defense anyway. That's life in the league.
Who is the most fraudulent, quote-unquote, contender in the NFL? Taylor says the Jags are frauds. We've been hearing it all offseason. They were supposed to be the 1 seed in the AFC. She says, I don't even think they'll legitimately contend at all in the AFC this season. Karen thinks the Cowboys are frauds. Goody says it's either the Dolphins or the Cowboys, who faced off over the weekend, and the Dolphins got the win. Claudio says, until the Ravens win some playoff games, I will always say it's them. Flashy during the season, coming up short when it matters.
That's fair criticism of Lamar. I mean, and listen, what he's done this year is spectacular with a new coordinator in a different kind of offense. Lamar Jackson is the most valuable player in the league.
Yeah, I think so, especially after what Brock Purdy did opposite Lamar the other night.
None of you cowards want to call the Niners frauds, huh?
Those are the polls.
Mm-hmm. That's the show. Clayton Bishop and Brad Hopkins are next. I'll see you tonight on Primetime.